The park was quiet that morning. Cold wind moved through the trees, and dry leaves danced across the path. People walked by in warm coats, holding coffee cups, eyes on their phones. No one noticed the man on the bench. He was lying there, curled up under a thin blanket. His hair was messy, and his beard looked like it hadn't been trimmed in months. His clothes were old and dirty. But beside him, resting gently like something precious, was a guitar. It was old, the wood scratched, the strings dusty, but somehow, it still looked special, like it had stories inside it. No one paid attention. They just walked past. At 7:45 a.m., a little girl named Amani was walking with her mother. She saw the man and stopped. "Mama," she said, "why is that man sleeping on the bench? And why does he have a guitar?" Her mother pulled her gently. "Don't stare, Amani. Come on, we're late." But Amani kept looking back. There was something about that man, something sad, but soft. Across the street, inside a small cafe, the owner Layla wiped the counter and looked out the window. She noticed the man too. He had been sleeping there for 3 days. Every morning, same spot. She watched him pick up the guitar, clean it with the edge of his blanket, and then do nothing. He didn't play. He just held it. "He's not just any man," she whispered to herself. At that moment, a teenage boy named Sami entered the cafe. He was a regular customer, always ordering the same thing, black tea. No sugar. Layla poured his tea. "Sami, do you see that man on the bench?" Sami looked through the window. "Yeah, he's been there for days." "There's something about him," Layla said. "He carries that guitar like it's the only thing keeping him alive." Sami took a sip of tea. "Maybe it is." Outside, the man slowly opened his eyes. He looked around, as if trying to remember where he was. His face showed no joy, no anger, just a deep emptiness. He sat up and stretched. His hands shook a little. He touched the guitar gently, almost like he was afraid it might break. People still walked by without noticing him. Then, something changed. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and placed the guitar on his lap. His fingers, thin and pale, rested on the strings. He stayed still for a long moment. Then he began to play. The sound was soft at first, just a few notes, but the melody was deep, full of pain and beauty. It sounded like a memory, like someone crying without tears. It didn't feel like music. It felt like a story. A woman who was jogging nearby slowed down. She turned her head, her eyes widened. She stopped running and just listened. A man walking his dog paused. His dog sat down beside him without command. The man stood still, eyes locked on the player. Within minutes, a small group had formed. No one spoke, no one recorded. They just stood there, caught in the emotion of the moment. Inside the cafe, Layla stepped outside, holding a cup of hot tea. She walked slowly toward the bench, not wanting to break the magic. Sami followed her, tea still in hand. They both stood at the edge of the growing crowd, watching the man. His eyes were closed as he played. He wasn't performing. He was remembering. Every string he touched pulled out something: grief, loss, love, longing. The sound floated through the park like a voice that didn't need words. A tear rolled down Layla's cheek. Sami whispered, "How can someone play like that?" Layla shook her head. "Only someone who's been through something no one should ever go through." The music stopped. The man opened his eyes. He looked up, and for the first time, he noticed the crowd. He blinked, confused, like he had forgotten anyone else was there. People clapped softly, some with tears in their eyes. The man didn't smile. He just nodded once, picked up his blanket, and lay back down. The crowd slowly walked away, each person carrying a strange heaviness in their heart. They didn't know who the man was, but something in his music touched their soul. Layla placed the tea on the bench near him. He didn't say anything, didn't look at her. But after she walked away, he slowly sat back up and took a sip. His hands still shook. Sami stood a little longer. He stared at the man, trying to understand something that couldn't be explained. Later that night, Sami asked his mother, "Have you ever seen someone so sad, but so beautiful?" His mother looked at him, puzzled. "Who are you talking about?" "There's a man in the park," he said. "He plays guitar. And when he plays, you feel like your heart's breaking." His mother paused. "Does he have long hair, beard, old clothes?" "Yes," Sami replied. She turned pale, her voice dropped. "And scar on his hand." Sami nodded slowly. "You saw him too." She didn't answer. She just walked to the drawer and pulled out an old photo. It was worn, faded, but clear enough. It showed a younger man, smiling, holding a guitar, and in his arms, a baby dot. Sami stared at the photo. "Who is that?" His mother whispered. "I don't know if it's possible, but if it is, that man might be someone I never thought I'd see again." Sami's heart beat faster. "What do you mean?" She looked at him with eyes full of secrets. "He might be someone who once saved my life, someone I lost a long time ago." Outside in the cold night, the man lay on the bench again. The guitar rested beside him. He closed his eyes and hummed a quiet tune, finished, broken, but full of truth. And far away, the world was beginning to remember him, one note at a time. The next morning the sky was gray and the clouds hung low over the city. The cold wind moved through the park again, but the bench was not empty. The man was there, still asleep, his arms wrapped tightly around his guitar as if afraid someone would take it from him. People passed as usual, some glanced. But most didn't stop the music from yesterday still. Lingered in a few hearts, but the world moved fast and memories faded quickly except for Sami. He hadn't forgotten. He walked toward the bench with slow, careful steps. The man was still asleep, so Sami sat on the other side of the bench quietly. After a few minutes, the man stirred. He opened one eye, then the other. His face didn't show surprise or fear, just tiredness and silence. Sami cleared his throat softly. "I saw you play yesterday." The man said nothing. Sami tried again. "You played something really sad, but it was beautiful." The man looked at him this time, his eyes dark but not angry, just old and tired. "Thank you," he whispered. His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it in years. Sami smiled. "I'm Sami. I come to this park every day with my tea and music in my ear. But yesterday, I didn't need headphones. Your music said everything." The man gave a tiny nod, then looked away. "What's your name?" Sami asked. The man hesitated, then whispered Zion. Sami repeated it slowly. "Zion? That's a nice name. Do you live around here?" Zion gave a small, sad laugh. "This bench is where I sleep. That guitar is my only friend." Sami didn't know what to say. He looked at the guitar. It was even more worn up close. Scratches, faded strings, a small crack near the bottom. It looked like it had been through a lot, just like— "Zion, can I ask you something?" Sami said quietly. "Why do you sleep here? Someone like you who can play like that should be on a stage." Zion didn't answer right away. He looked down at his hands, then at the sky. "Once I had a home. Once I had a name that meant something. I played music every day. I had a family, people who loved me. Then something happened, a fire, an accident. I lost everything. I wandered city to city for years. I didn't play, not until a few days ago, when I passed this park and remembered something." Sami leaned forward. "What did you remember?" Zion looked into the distance. "The sound of a baby laughing, the smell of jasmine, the way someone used to hum the same tune I played yesterday. It came back to me like a whisper in my sleep. That's why I played. I wasn't performing. I was remembering." Sami's chest felt tight. He didn't know this man, but his pain felt real, like it was sitting between them. Zion touched the guitar lightly. "I wrote a song for my son once, but I never got to finish it after the fire. I was in the hospital, no memory. When I woke up, they told me everyone was gone. No names, no records, only silence." Sami swallowed hard. "You had a son?" Zion nodded. "He would be around your age now, maybe a little younger." Sami's hands trembled a little. He remembered the photo his mom showed him, the man holding a guitar and a baby in his arms. His face looked just like this one. "Zion," Sami stood up. "I'll be back," he said. "I need to show someone something." Zion didn't stop him, didn't ask questions. He just watched him go back at home. Sami ran inside. His mother was sitting by the window, deep in thought. "Mom," he said loudly, "I need that photo again, the one you showed me yesterday." She looked at him confused. Why? Sami pulled her up from the chair. "Come with me now, please. I need you to see something." They walked quickly to the park. Neither spoke on the way. When they reached the bench, Zion was sitting again, softly tuning his guitar. He looked up as they approached. His eyes landed on the woman beside Sami, and for the first time his hands dropped the guitar, slid to the ground gently, and his lips parted. He stood up slowly, his legs unsteady, and stared at her as if seeing a ghost. She stared back, her eyes wide, filled with something between shock and sorrow. "Layla," Zion whispered. The woman gasped. Only one person had ever called her that. "Zion," she said, her voice breaking. "It really is you." Sami looked between them, confused. "What's going on? How do you know each other?" His mother reached into her bag and pulled out the photo again. She handed it to Zion. His fingers trembled as he took it. "This was the only photo I kept," she said. "I thought you died in the fire. I thought you were gone forever." Zion shook his head. "I was in a coma for 3 months. They told me no one made it. I tried to find you when I remembered, but it was too late. They moved you, changed names. I looked for years, and when I stopped, I wandered." Zion stood there frozen, as the word echoed in his ears. Dad, a word he hadn't heard in 17 years. A word he thought he'd never hear again. Tears rolled down his cheeks, but he didn't move. He was afraid that if he blinked, this moment might disappear. Sami looked at him, uncertain, unsure whether to take a step forward or back. His heart was pounding, his hands cold, his legs shaking. Layla gently placed her hand on Sami's shoulder. "He's your father, Sami. He didn't leave us," he thought. "We were gone." Sami whispered, "Why didn't you ever tell me?" She took a deep breath. "I thought he was dead. The hospital said there were no survivors from the fire. I was in a different city with you, recovering. You were just a baby by the time I got out. There was no trace of him." Zion stepped forward slowly, his voice low, broken. "I searched for both of you. I thought maybe someone had made a mistake, but your names were changed, your records gone. I thought maybe you both had passed." Sami couldn't hold it in any longer. "Why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you go to the media, to the police?" "I did," Zion said, his voice trembling. "I did all of it, but I had no last name, no photos, nothing to prove who I was. I was just a man with a broken guitar and a missing past. Nobody listened. They thought I was crazy. After a while, I stopped talking and started walking." Sami looked at his father, then at the guitar that lay beside the bench. "So all this time you were out here in the cold, playing songs for a son you thought was gone?" Zion nodded. "I didn't know you were real anymore. I thought maybe you were just a dream, but still I played, hoping maybe someone would hear and feel something familiar." Layla spoke gently. "He's been through a lot. Sami, he lost his family, then lost himself." Sami sat down on the bench, putting his head in his hands. I don't know how to feel all these years. I wanted to know about my dad, and now he's right here. I don't know what to say. Zion sat beside him carefully, not too close. I don't expect you to understand or forgive me. I just wanted one chance to see you, to tell you that I loved you even before you could speak. I used to sing to you every night. Do you remember? Sami shook his head. No. I don't remember anything from back then. Zion looked up at the sky. Sometimes I wondered if maybe you'd remember my song. It was unfinished. I never got to play the last note. I stopped writing it the day I thought you died. Sami looked at him. You still remember the song? Zion picked up the guitar. His hands moved slowly. The same soft melody filled the air. People walking by slowed down again. Some remembered his music from before they stopped and listened. He played the same tune that had once brought strangers to tears, but now the sound felt different, heavier, filled with hope and pain. Mixed together. When he finished, he looked at Sami and said, "That was yours. Sami, the last song I ever wrote and the one I could never finish." Sami stared at the strings, then reached out his hand. "May I try?" Zion nodded and handed him the guitar. Sami placed it in his lap. It felt strange but natural. His fingers touched the strings. Awkward at first, then smoother. He had never played before. But somehow the melody came to him, not perfectly, but enough to follow the feeling. The crowd grew again. Someone began to cry. Someone else whispered, "He's playing his father's song." Zion watched his son with eyes full of tears. The boy he had once rocked to sleep was now sitting beside him, finishing the song he could never end. Sami strummed a final note. It was soft and high, like a whisper, floating on the wind. The moment held still for a second. No one moved, no one spoke. Zion whispered, "You just played the part I never could." Sami looked up, eyes wet. Maybe it needed two of us to finish it. The people clapped quietly. Layla wiped her eyes. She stepped forward and put her arms around both of them. "My family," she said softly. Zion looked at her. "I never stopped loving you, Layla, even when the world turned its back on me." She nodded and whispered, "I know." Sami stood holding the guitar in his arms. "So what now?" he asked. "Do we go home, or are we strangers who shared a song?" Zion reached out gently, not to hold him but to offer a choice. "Only if you're ready. I don't want to force a place in your life." Sami looked at his mother, then at the man who sat beside him, and for the first time he saw something he hadn't before. Not a stranger, not a broken man, not a ghost from the past. He saw a father, a lost one, but still a father. He handed the guitar back to Zion and said, "Come home with us." And just like that, a man who had lost everything began to find pieces of it again. Through a bench, through a song, through a boy who still had questions but also had room in his heart. For a new beginning, the crowd slowly walked away, touched by a story they couldn't explain but deeply felt. The man with the guitar packed his blanket. The boy held his hand, and the woman beside them smiled through her tears. As the three walked away from the bench, the park stayed quiet, but their song still floated through the air, not on strings but in hearts that would never forget what it meant to be lost and then finally found. The small apartment felt warmer than it had in years, even though the heater barely worked. Zion stepped inside slowly, his eyes scanning the living room. The photos on the wall, the old clock ticking softly, the smell of cardamom tea, and something he hadn't smelled in a long time. A homie took off his worn jacket and stood by the door, unsure if he should sit. Sami pointed to the couch. "Make yourself comfortable." Zion nodded, but still stayed standing. Layla brought in a tray with 3 cups of tea. She handed one to Zion, who took it with both hands like it was something delicate. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice still unsure. They sat in silence for a moment. Sami looked at his father and asked, "Where did you sleep all these years?" "Different cities," Zion said. "Sometimes shelters, mostly benches, always with the guitar. It was all I had left." Sami asked, "Why didn't you try to start over?" Zion stared into his tea. "How do you start over when your heart believes everything you loved is gone? I couldn't play for years. I stopped talking to people. Then one night I heard a tune in my sleep. It sounded like something I used to play for you. I woke up crying. I found myself walking until I reached that park. It felt like my feet brought me there." Sami was quiet. Layla reached over and touched Zion's hand softly. "I wish I had looked harder too. I was told you died. I believed them. I tried to forget, but I couldn't, and I never married again because deep down I thought maybe you were still somewhere." Zion looked at her, eyes full of pain and wonder. "I kept your photo in my guitar case. It was faded, but it was all I had. I used to talk to it every night, as if you could hear me." Sami listened to every word. Part of him wanted to cry, part of him was still confused, but most of him just wanted to understand. He stood up, walked to his room, and returned with an old music book. "I never played music before," he said. "But today, when I touched your guitar, it felt like I already knew it." Zion smiled. "That's because it's inside you. Blood remembers. Music remembers." Sami opened the book and showed a page where he had written some words last night. "I tried to write the rest of your song. I don't know if it's good, but it came from my heart." Zion took the paper, read it slowly, each word like a note in his chest. His hands shook. "You finished the lullaby." Sami nodded. "Maybe you should play it tomorrow in the park with me. We'll play it together." Zion blinked, fast holding back tears. "I would like that very much." The next morning the sky was clear and the sun gentle. Zion and Sami walked to the park, guitar in hand. People were already there waiting, curious to see the man and the boy who played the song that brought a crowd to tears. Layla stood near the cafe watching proudly. Zion sat on the bench, tuned his guitar, Sami stood beside him holding a small mic connected to a speaker for the first time. Zion spoke to the crowd. My name is Zion. This is my son Sami. I wrote a song for him when he was a baby. I never got to finish it today. After 17 years we finished it together. The crowd was silent, the air heavy with emotion. Zion began to play the familiar melody, soft and haunting. Sami joined in after a few seconds reading the lyrics. He wrote, his voice shaking at first. Then stronger people watched, tears in their eyes. Some held hands, others closed their eyes, letting the music take them somewhere deep inside. Zion's fingers moved across the strings with new strength, his face calm, full of something he hadn't felt in years, peace. When the song ended, no one clapped right away. The silence was sacred, then slowly gentle. Applause rose, and people wiped their eyes. Some came forward thanking them, others just nodded, not with words but with heart. One little boy stepped forward and said, "Your song made me miss someone." "I don't remember." Zion bent down and hugged him gently. "That means your heart is full and you're brave for feeling it." After the crowd left, Zion looked at Sami. "I don't want to be a visitor in your life," he said. "You don't have to call me dad or anything. You're not a visitor," Sami replied. "You're my father. That's what you are, and I want you to stay." Zion smiled softly, then looked at the bench where everything began. "It saved me, this bench. It gave me back my son." Sami looked at the guitar. Maybe it wasn't the bench. Maybe it was the music. Music is just sound, Zion said, until someone listens, then it becomes something more, a connection, a bridge between hearts. Layla walked over and handed them both sandwiches. "You two need energy for your next song." Zion laughed for the first time in years, a full warm laugh that made people turn and smile. Sami joined him, and together they sat on the bench. This time not as strangers but as something stronger, father and son, with stories still to tell, and songs still to play. As the sun set, the city lights flickered on, but in the little park on over the next few days, the story of the man with the guitar and his son spread across the city. People who had heard the music told their friends, some shared the moment online, someone had recorded the performance and posted it. The video was simple, just a father and son playing a soft song under a tree, but the sound, the emotion, it touched people's hearts in a way few things could. The video quickly reached thousands, then millions. Comments poured in from all over the world. Some said it reminded them of a parent they lost, others said it gave them hope. Some just wrote thank you again and again. Sami read every comment with wide eyes, amazed that something so personal had reached so far. Zion, on the other hand, was quiet about the attention. He didn't care for fame, he only cared about the music and the boy who had once been a baby in his arms. Now beside him playing notes he never thought he'd hear again. One morning, as they sat together tuning the guitar, a car pulled up near the park. A man stepped out wearing a suit and holding a card in his hand. He approached them slowly. "Excuse me," he said. "Are you Zion, the man with the guitar?" "Yes," Zion said carefully. "Who's asking?" The man smiled. "I'm from the city's Art and Music Council. We saw your video. We want to invite you and your son to perform at the annual city gala. It's a big event, very respected. Many important people attend." Zion looked unsure. "I don't know if we're ready for something like that. We're just two people who found each other." Again Sami looked excited. "Come on, Dad, we can do it." Zion looked at him surprised. "Dad?" Sami said it again with a smile. "We'll do it together." The man handed them the invitation. "The gala is in 2 weeks. We'll take care of everything. Instruments, sound, team, stage lights, everything. Just bring your hearts." Zion nodded slowly. "We'll be there the next 2 weeks. We're busy, full of rehearsals, interviews, and preparations." For the first time in years, Zion had a reason to wake up early every day, and a reason to smile. Layla helped organize their clothes, even ironing an old suit Zion hadn't worn in a decade. Sami practiced daily, improving his chords, learning timing and control. Their bond grew stronger, not just through words, but through each note they shared at night. They talked about the past, the missing years, the little things they both wondered about. Zion learned about Sami's love for books and drawing. Sami learned about Zion's old music career, the places he played before the fire. Took it all away one evening after practice. Sami sat on the floor strumming slowly and asked, "Do you think Mom would have stayed with you even if the fire hadn't happened?" Zion looked up from tuning his strings. "I don't think I ever gave her a reason to leave. Even when the world fell apart, she stayed in my heart, and now she's here again. That means something strong, something rare." The night of the gala arrived. The auditorium was packed, lights bright, the crowd buzzing with excitement. Backstage, Zion paced nervously. Sami placed a hand on his shoulder. "We've played for strangers before. This is no different." Zion nodded, but his hands were still shaking. When they stepped onto the stage, the room went quiet. They sat under the soft lights. Sami spoke first. "This is a song written before I was born and finished after I found my father. Again, it's not just music, it's memory, healing, and hope." Zion strummed the first chord. The sound echoed through the hall, deep and gentle, the same melody, but this time fuller, clearer. When Sami joined in, their voices and strings blended like water and sky, one flowing into the other. Some in the audience closed their eyes, others held hands, some cried openly as the last note faded. The room stayed silent. No one wanted to break the moment. Then a slow clap started, then another, then the entire hall erupted in applause. Standing, clapping, crying, Zion looked At Sami, they smiled and bowed together after the show. People came backstage, reporters, musicians, strangers, all wanting to talk. Some asked about their journey, others just hugged them. Layla appeared with teary eyes and wrapped them both in her arms. Proud doesn't even begin to describe how I feel, she said. You didn't just play a song, you gave people hope. The Music Council offered them a special honor, a music fellowship to teach and perform across the country. Sami accepted with joy. Zion was hesitant but agreed only if Sami was with him. Always they started traveling, performing in schools, parks, shelters, always sharing not just songs but their story in each city. New people were touched, new lives changed. One boy in a shelter said, "After hearing you, I started writing again. I thought I'd lost my voice, but your music brought it back." Zion hugged him gently. "Never stop writing, your pain has power, your story matters." Months passed, seasons changed, but one thing stayed the same. The bond between father and son grew stronger, deeper. Their music continued to echo in the hearts of those who listened. And one night, back in the same small park where it all began, they sat together again, on that old bench under the stars. Sami asked, "Do you think music really saved us?" Zion smiled. "I think love did, but music helped it find its way back." And as they played under the open sky with only the moon as their audience, they knew that no matter where life took them, they would always have their bench, their song, and each other. As winter slowly melted into spring, the world around them bloomed with color once more, and Zion and Sami found themselves busier than ever, traveling to small towns and big cities, sharing their music and their story. People listened, not just to the songs but to the journey, the loss, the reunion, and the healing in every place they went. Someone cried, someone smiled, someone said thank you. The bond between father and son grew stronger with every note played, every hand held, and every hug received. Yet deep inside, Zion often wondered how long this moment would last. He feared that maybe one day Sami would grow tired of him, or feel burdened by his past. He never said it out loud, but the fear sat quietly in his chest. One morning they were invited to perform at a university. The students were young, curious, full of energy and dreams. The music hall was smaller but packed with emotion. After the show, a professor approached them. He looked thoughtful and kind, with silver in his hair and calm eyes. He said, "Your story touched me deeply. I lost my son 10 years ago, and tonight it felt like he was near. Thank you." Zion hugged the man gently. "Grief never leaves," he said softly, "but music gives it a place to rest." That night, as they returned to their hotel, Sami sat by the window looking out at the city lights. "Dad," he said, "you ever wonder what would have happened if the fire didn't happen, if we had grown up together?" Zion sat beside him all the time, but then I remind myself that sometimes even broken paths can lead home, if we're lucky. Sami nodded. "I used to imagine my dad was a superhero. Now I know he's just human, and that makes him even more special." Zion smiled gently. "Thank you for saying that. Sometimes I don't feel strong, I feel scared." Sami looked at him surprised. "Scared of what?" "Scared of losing this." Zion admitted. "Scared of waking up and finding it was just a dream? Scared that I don't deserve this second chance?" Sami leaned his head on his father's shoulder. "None of this is a dream, and you do deserve it because you never stopped trying, even when the world turned away from you." A week later, they were back in their city, performing in a local charity concert to raise money for homeless shelters. Zion was passionate about it. He knew what it meant to sleep in the cold alone, and forgotten. They performed their original song and added 2 new ones written together. Sami's lyrics, Zion's chords. The crowd loved them. After the show, a woman with a small child came up. She looked tired, her eyes hollow. The child held a plastic toy guitar. She said, "We've been living in a shelter for 3 weeks. My husband left. I lost my job, but your music gave me something I haven't felt in months." Hope. Zion knelt beside the child and handed him a guitar pick. "Music is a friend that never leaves," he said quietly. "Let it comfort you." Sami handed her a flyer for a local help center. The woman hugged them both. "Thank you," she whispered through tears. "Thank you for not giving up so others like me can hold on." Zion watched her leave, his heart full but heavy. He knew the road of pain too well. That night, as they packed their instruments, Sami found something tucked inside Zion's guitar case. It was an old photo folded many times. He opened it. It was the same picture his mother had kept. Zion, Layla, and a baby in Zion's arms. "Your treasure," Sami said, handing it to him. Zion looked at it and smiled, but then something strange happened. He flipped it over and saw words written faintly in ink. "Meet me at the place where music first found us." Zion's smile faded. He had never seen that writing before. It wasn't his, it was Layla's. He stared at it, confused. Sami looked over. "What does it mean?" Zion thought hard, then whispered, "The beach. There was a time before the fire, before everything, when Layla and I used to sit on the shore and write songs. That's where we first played together. That's where we found our sound." The next day, Zion took Layla and Sami to that beach. They hadn't been there in nearly 20 years. It looked different, yet familiar waves still danced the same. The wind still hummed. Layla stood silently, tears forming. "I used to come here after the fire," she said. "I wrote that note on the back of the photo, hoping maybe one day someone would see it and come." Zion's voice shook, "And I never looked. I never turned it over. All these years it was right there." The beach was empty except for a small wooden structure nearby. The old music hut, still standing, somehow inside dust, covered everything but the old piano in the corner, sat waiting. Zion walked over, wiped it slowly, and played a single note. I took it softly, pure and lonely. Layla stood beside him and began to hum. The next few months brought more change than Zion ever imagined possible. Their story was now known far beyond their city. Invitations poured in from across the country. People wanted them to perform, speak, and share what their journey had taught them. Zion remained humble, always surprised that people cared so deeply. Sami handled most of the planning, now confident and focused. He was no longer just a teenager trying to understand his past. He was a young man creating his future alongside his father and mother. One afternoon, as they returned from a small village concert, they stopped at a quiet rest area. Zion walked slowly toward a bench and sat down, staring at the horizon. After a while, Sami joined him. "Dad, you look tired." Zion smiled. "Not tired, just full of things I thought I'd never feel again." Sami nodded. "Sometimes I wonder how many people walked past you all those years and never knew who you were." Zion looked into the distance. "I think about that too, but maybe I had to lose everything to understand what really matters." Sami reached into his bag and pulled out a letter. "Someone gave this to me after our last show. They said to give it to you." Zion took the envelope, slowly opened it, and began to read. "Dear Zion, you don't know me, but I was once like you, alone, lost, and invisible. Your music made me feel seen for the first time in years. It gave me strength. I decided to go back to school and get help. Thank you." Zion folded the letter carefully, his hands trembling. "Every time I hear something like this, I realize that the music wasn't just for me. It was for everyone who ever felt forgotten." Sami placed his arm around his father and said, "We're not done yet. There's more to share, more to give." Zion nodded, but inside a quiet worry had started to grow. A few times he had felt pain in his chest, or a sudden tiredness that didn't go away quickly. He hadn't told anyone, not wanting to worry Layla or Sami. He told himself it was just stress or age, but something didn't feel right. One morning, as they prepared for a live performance at a local radio station, Zion suddenly froze, his hand clutching his chest. He couldn't breathe properly. Sami rushed to him. "Dad, what's wrong?" Zion tried to speak but couldn't. Layla came running. They called an ambulance, and within minutes, he was rushed to the hospital. Doctors worked quickly, stabilizing him after hours of tests. They sat Layla and Sami down. The doctor looked serious. "Zion has a heart condition, possibly made worse by years of stress and cold exposure. He'll need rest, medication, and possibly surgery." Sami felt like the floor had disappeared under him. He stood up and walked to the room where his father was lying, pale but awake. When their eyes met, Zion whispered, "Sorry, Sami." Took his hand. "No, Dad, no apologies. We're here now. We'll face this together." Layla joined them, tears in her eyes. Zion looked at both of them and said, "If I don't make it, I want you to keep playing, keep telling the story." Sami shook his head. "You're not going anywhere. We still have songs to write together." The surgery was scheduled a week later. It was risky but necessary. During that week, they stayed at the hospital, taking turns sitting with Zion, playing music softly, reading letters from fans, drawing dreams on paper. One night, Sami brought out the lullaby again, the one they had finished together. He played it gently for his father and said, "Remember, this is how we found each other. It's also how we'll hold on." Zion listened, his eyes wet. "This song saved me," Sami said, "and now it will protect you." The morning of the surgery came. The hospital lights were too bright, the halls too cold, but they held. Zion's hands kissed his forehead and watched as the doors closed behind him. The wait was long. Hours passed like years. Finally, the doctor returned. He looked tired but calm. "The surgery went well," he said. "He's stable now, just needs time to heal." Sami and Layla hugged each other. Overcome with relief, they entered the room and found Zion asleep, peaceful, the machines beeping gently. Sami sat beside him and whispered, "I'm not going to lose you. Not now, not after all this." Salih's eyes opened, weak but filled with light. He managed to smile and whispered, "Did I missed the concert?" Sami laughed. "No, but the crowd's waiting whenever you're ready over the next few weeks." Zion recovered slowly each day, gaining strength, surrounded by letters, music, and love. One afternoon, as the sun filled the hospital room with golden lights, Zion asked for his guitar. It had been cleaned and tuned by Sami. He held it with gentle hands, then played a few notes. Though weak, the sound was warm, the melody imperfect but honest. When he finished, Sami said, "I think you just played the most beautiful song yet." Zion smiled. "The music never leaves us. It only waits for the right moment, and now I know every note was leading me back to you." Sami leaned in close. "Then let's keep playing, Dad, as long as we can." And outside, in the world that still moved fast, people kept listening, kept remembering the man on the bench, the guitar in his arms, and the boy who finished the song. Zion returned home after weeks in the hospital. The apartment felt different now, warmer, brighter, more alive. Layla had filled the space with small flowers and soft lights. Sami had placed the guitar stand beside the window where the sunlight could touch it every morning. Zion walked slowly, still weak, but improving each day. He no longer looked like the man who once slept on a bench. Now he looked like a man who had been through fire and found peace on the other side. As he sat near the window, strumming quietly, Sami entered, holding 2 mugs of tea. "Mom's baking your favorite today," Sami said, smiling. Zion laughed. "I don't even remember what my favorite was." "You will," Sami said, handing him the tea, one memory at a time. They sat in silence For a while, just listening to the wind outside, Zion finally spoke. You know, I never thought I'd see a life like this again. Warmth, love, a home. I thought that was all gone forever. Sami looked at him, serious but gentle. You were never truly gone. We just hadn't found you yet. Later that day, they received a call from the city's cultural center they wanted to honor Zion and Sami with a special music tribute, an evening event with live performances and stories shared by those who had been touched by their journey. Zion hesitated at first, but Layla encouraged him. It's not just about you, it's about what your music gave to others, and it's about showing the world that healing is possible. Zion nodded. You're right. It's time. The event was held in the same park where everything began. The bench was still there now, cleaned and painted with a small golden plaque attached. It read the song that reunited hearts. Zion and Sami stood on the stage under fairy lights, surrounded by people who had gathered not just for music but for meaning. Layla introduced them to the crowd, her voice calm but full of emotion. When I lost Zion, I lost a part of myself. When we found him again, I realized music had been carrying us all along, helping us feel him, even when he wasn't there. Zion stepped forward, his voice soft but steady. I never thought anyone would hear my music again, not after I lost everything. I thought my story had ended on that bench, but now I know it was only just beginning. Sami played the first note, the crowd fell silent, then Zion joined in, their fingers moving slowly over the strings. The same lullaby now played with a new rhythm, fuller, richer, more complete. Halfway through the song they paused and invited children from the local shelter to join them. Each child had a small instrument, a triangle, a shaker, a drum, and together they finished the song as one. The crowd stood and clapped, not just for the sound but for the story behind it, for the pain that turned into hope, and the silence that turned into song. After the performance, people shared their own stories. One elderly man said, I hadn't spoken to my daughter in years. After hearing your music, I called her last night. A young woman said, I almost gave up, but your song reminded me I'm still here, and I still matter. Zion listened to each person with care, hugging, many tears flowing freely. Sami stood beside him, proud of the man he now called Dad, proud of the music that had once been just a sound and now was a movement. A few days later, they started something new, a small music center called The Bench Inside. They offered free lessons to kids and teens, especially those who had lost parents or lived in shelters. Zion taught guitar, Sami helped with songwriting, and Layla organized events. Every wall was decorated with messages of hope, small photos of those who had played their first notes there, and one corner had the original bench placed under soft lights, where anyone could sit and write or just listen. One afternoon, a young girl sat on that bench, tears on her cheeks. Zion approached, gently asked her name. She whispered, Amara. I lost my brother last year. I can't hear music without crying. Zion sat beside her, handed her a guitar. Then cry, he said, but play to let the pain move through the strings. Amara took the guitar, hands shaking, and played a simple note, just one, but it was enough. Sami watched from across the room and smiled. That was how healing started. One note, one person, one story at a time. Months passed, and the center grew. Kids came every day. Parents sat and listened. Music became more than just sound. It became family. One evening, as the sun set, Sami stood on the rooftop with his parents. The city lights twinkling below. Dad, Sami said, do you ever wish things had been different? Zion thought for a moment, then shook his head. If things were different, maybe I'd still be sleeping on a bench. Maybe I'd have never met you like this. We lost time, yes, but we gained something more, faith, Layla added. And forgiveness, Sami nodded. I used to think life was about answers, but now I think it's about connection. Zion placed a hand on his shoulder and said, connection is the only song worth singing, and as the night deepened, they played a new melody, soft,